Thank you so much, Joshua, for sending me your book, The Entrepreneur's Framework. Now, this book is filled full of goodies about being an entrepreneur, and Joshua H. Davidson has been an entrepreneur since he was 16 years old, and he actually did not even mean to be an entrepreneur at the time. He was just following passion and following a need that he saw, and taking his skills and going forth and setting out there and starting a business during a great recession. So in this book, he talks a bit about the new economy, which is happening right now, and he gives you several tips, several personal experiences, because actually he mentions right at the beginning of the book that he wrote this book for himself. So it's like a reflection, and we get to see and pick through Joshua's mind. That's the thing that I love about this book, is getting to pick through his mind and see his personal experiences, see the things that he failed and succeeded on. That makes this 300 some odd page book totally worth reading. So enjoy this review and let me know what you think at the end. So as the book explains, the new economy is basically what we're living in right now, with all the internet and information around us. The comparison that I really like is back in the 1950s in smaller towns and maybe even in bigger cities, when people walked down the main street and saw all the shops, the shopkeepers would actually maybe even know these people by name. And this is the comparison to actually what's happening right now with all the information that we have about people. And of course, some people don't necessarily like having their information out there, but this makes it a lot easier for businesses to connect with people on an emotional level, on a personal level. So we're using people's names, and we have like all this information about people. That way we can personalize the service for them. That's what's happening with the business right now, and it actually makes for very good for businesses as well as customers. And it's very exciting with all the new technologies coming out. So you never know what's going to happen in the future. You never know how much everything is going to improve and what sort of new technologies you can use in this new economy. So the book is actually based off of this framework right here. I don't know if you can see it, but I will explain each line on here and what it means. But when I first saw this framework, I was kind of like, what the heck is this? And what makes this so special? And why does the book have to be 300 pages and just talking about this framework? Well, it's definitely well worth it. And after Joshua explains it in each chapter of the book, it makes much more sense. And another thing that I really like is at the very end of the book, there's 10 pages, I didn't count it, but like about 10 pages or so of this framework that you can personally use. Make a copy of it, post it on your bulletin board, have it visual so that you can see it every single day and make improvements on your life. I've used it and I have liked the outcome. So definitely it's very useful. So let's talk about each individual aspect of the entrepreneur's framework. So the first one is self-awareness. Second one is empathy. Third is leadership. Fourth is short-term and long-term thinking. Fifth is economics. Sixth is operations. And seventh is purpose. So number one, being self-aware is extremely important in entrepreneurship. Even if you're an employee or you're part of a team, anything like that, being self-aware will allow you to be liked by other people, and also, of course, know yourself. One of the best ways to be self-aware is by journaling. And I've had personal experience with this, journaling every single day, and it's just a way for you to be able to write down your thoughts and open up your mind to what's going on inside of you. If you're not even self-aware, if you don't know what's going on inside of you, it could get out of control. And you could push on other people's nerves. You could even push on your own nerves. So really, you do need to be self-aware, and journaling, writing down your thoughts, could open up your minds to new opportunities as well as knowing yourself. Another way to be more self-aware is by having a daily routine to where you give yourself some time, at maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, to yourself. Now for Joshua's case, he would, the very first thing in the morning, go take a warm shower, and that was his time to open up his mind, relax, and not let anyone bother him, not even check his phone first or his email. He would just go directly to the shower. For me, I wake up at 5:30 every single morning. I will sit on my chair for like 5-10 minutes and just kind of meditate there for a little bit. And then I would open up a book, get some water, read for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then get ready for work. So having this time to where you can just focus on yourself is a fantastic way to be more self-aware. Give yourself time every single day. And the third way to be more self-aware is by focusing on your why. Focusing on why you are doing what you're doing. And one of my favorite books about that is Start With Why and Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. So if you want to know more about finding your purpose, definitely read those books to get a better idea. And maybe you don't even know what your why is, so read those books to help you find out. Focus on your why, keep yourself on the track, on the path, on the goal that you're going for, and that will help you to be more self-aware. Empathy. The two things that I really enjoyed about this section talked about listening to your customers and your friends with a deep focus. Sometimes you listen to people without actually really listening to people. And the tip that Joshua gives is, when you are listening to them, don't be thinking about what you're going to say next. You should be listening to them attentively, and then after they get done talking, you can take a few seconds to collect your thoughts and then decide what you want to say. I want to implement this in my life because I feel like sometimes my listening skills are not the best. So each time I listen to someone now, I attentively focus on what they are saying. The second thing that I really enjoyed about the empathy section was about actually trying to solve problems that people actually have. Sometimes we come up with this brilliant idea in our minds, but in other people's minds it might not be such a brilliant idea. So we need to solve real problems, and by listening to people, which these two things kind of play off of each other. By listening to people, we can understand what their problems are and then try to shoot to solve those problems. We can also think about some of the problems that we are having and go and try and solve those problems. Other people will join and enjoy our solutions to those problems. Leadership. Now, I've got to read the quote directly from the book because I believe it is amazing. Leadership is a shared mindset. Individual leaders can be catalysts for change, but without a collective effort, nothing can get done alone. A collective is always more powerful than an individual. Think about the famous companies that you know, Apple, Google, SpaceX. All these CEOs, Elon Musk, Larry Page, and Steve Jobs, people think about those CEOs when they hear the name SpaceX or Google or Apple. They are the leaders of those companies. And people don't realize that actually alongside those people is a strong team. Without that team, those leaders would not be able to be doing what they are doing. I mean, think about it, you know? Have you ever tried to do something just on your own? Sometimes it can be extremely difficult, especially when, you know, you're growing a business. Eventually, you need to take on a team. At first, you might be able to do it all alone, but later, you're eventually going to definitely need a team. Hire on people that you trust. Hire on people that have the skills that you do not have, so you guys complement each other. Leadership is not about being the hero. Leadership is about leading the other people so that they can also become leaders. Here's a quick summary of this leadership chapter. Never overpromise and underdeliver. Leadership is not about controlling others. Be observant. Sniff out opportunities and never settle. Have the courage to speak up when the direction needs to be changed, but make it an inclusive process. Include all the others. It's your job to keep the accountability going. Don't hide your vulnerabilities. In fact, showing your vulnerabilities can help you find good new opportunities with good people. You can't be good at everything, so having a strong network of people who have your back will put you at a great advantage. And that also means maybe outsourcing some things that your team cannot handle. And last, leaders make leaders, and I mentioned that earlier. Short-term and long-term thinking. Live a few years like everybody else won't, so you can live the rest of your life like everyone else can't. Now, I heard this quote actually in The Heart of the Deal by Anthony Loley, which is also another great book. And in this chapter, there's a lot of points that Anthony Loley covered in his book as well, such as making your long-term goal that you want to reach. That is not something that you're going to be reaching in a year or 2 years. It might be a decade, it might be even your whole lifetime. But basically having that long-term goal as your star, your North Star, and continuously heading towards that goal, that is the thing that keeps you going. And you have to think about that goal constantly. It's kind of like your purpose. It's that big thing that you're going for. Another aspect that I really enjoyed about this section of the book was the fact that you need to be extremely persistent with the ideas that you have in order to succeed. Not everyone is going to succeed on the very first try. And the example in the book here is by James Dyson, the founder of the Dyson vacuum cleaner. Now, he had to make over 5,000 different models in order to be recognized by the people. And this was over like about a 6-year period. 5 or 6 year period. Can you believe how many times he had to fiddle with this vacuum cleaner just to get it right? And he persisted, and he kept on going. He did not give up after the first failure, after the 100th failure, and I'm sure after each time he improved his product. And obviously now it is such a popular product that anyone will buy a Dyson vacuum cleaner because of its quality. So the key principle here is persistence. And as we're thinking about this long-term goals and our short-term goals, we always have to be aware of what's going on around us. There's this thing called disruption, and this disruption in business has been around since businesses have been around. Disruption is this new idea that comes along and disrupts another business that maybe has been around for quite a long time. And even like taking, for example, Apple disrupted itself with the iPod going to the iPhone. So after the iPhone came out, people did not see the use for iPod anymore because then they could just play the music from their phones. We take this from the horse to a car. We take it from maybe, what else? Taxi to Uber, right? All these industries are getting disrupted. So we have to think about the long term. And if we see these new opportunities popping up, we have to decide whether we want to pivot or not. Continue on our path or change paths so that way we can avoid being disrupted or even disrupt ourselves like Apple did. Economy. Even during the toughest times, such as during the Great Recession, Joshua H. Davidson, as a 16-year-old, was able to launch his own business at a very minimal cost. So, even with tough times, you can come up with ideas that people actually need. In this chapter, I do not know a whole lot about economics, but there are several great tips that Joshua talks about. But the one that I want to mention is you really need to be an expert at your field. So if you're in the technology field, you really need to know whatever your product is inside and out. If you're creating a service, you need to know every single detail of that service. If you're creating a product, you need to know every single detail. You get the point. You need to be a specialist in whatever it is that you are creating. Operations. The operations chapter of the book covers a lot of the same things as leadership, but more specifically, I would like to read from this. Instead of doing too many things, focus on the few things that actually matter and keep working on those things until you accomplish what you set out to do. So really it's about that, being persistent and having that focus on whatever it is you're doing. It's the operations about how you run your business. Purpose. The very last but not least chapter of the book, and maybe even possibly the most important, is purpose. So really you need to have this North Star. You need to have something that you're working for. And that thing that you're working for should never be just money. You really have to dig deep in your soul, find your passion. And sometimes it's very difficult to find whatever it is your passionate about, and that can actually build a business on top of that. So having a purpose is something that you really have to just search for. And one thing that I loved in this book was a purpose is the result of your upbringing, your beliefs, your environment, and the initial things you fall in love with doing. So it really has something to do with passion. And you know, sometimes passion and purpose change over time, but we have a general sense of what we really want to do, especially if we're continuously searching for it and experimenting upon it. So really, I cannot emphasize enough, personally, how much purpose has motivated me to move forward. So I encourage you, if you have not found your purpose, that you start experimenting, start reading more books, start getting involved in organizations, challenging yourself. The only way that you can find your purpose is if you search for it yourself. And don't ever force yourself into thinking, this is my purpose and I'm never going to change it. No, because like I said, purpose evolves over time. And we need it in order to be a successful entrepreneur. You cannot be successful without a driving purpose. So wrapping up towards the end here, this book had lots of great takeaways, and as you can see here, the framework, it's not really an exact thing, but yeah, this right here, this is my writing and this is the example, and this thing will change all the time. It is not an exact science, and when I wrote this out, I was not feeling very well, so that's why it looks a lot smaller than this outside one. But some of the other ones that I've drawn on are a lot bigger. So really the framework changes and it's not an exact science, so each time that you use it, it will be a bit different. And it's shown as a percentage. So the higher percentage you write for yourself, that means that that is going very well in your life right now. So if you need to work on your leadership skills, let's say it's like 20%. Okay, I want to get that thing up to like 90%, you know? So then you can go and start working more on your leadership skills, focusing on those. Maybe you're poor at economics, so you want to learn more about that. Using the framework and reading this book will really help you to narrow your focus in on improving what you do and what you do best. I give the book a 4 out of 5, not because I didn't like it, but because it was a bit long-winded. Some of the parts I felt like, for me, were not very useful. But for you, they could be very useful. 4 out of 5 is really not that bad of a score. So definitely recommend reading this and working on your own framework. Working on these skills in your own life will definitely help you to become a better lifelong learner, a better entrepreneur, and definitely a better person overall. So check out Joshua H. Davidson's book, The Entrepreneur's Framework, and leave a comment below, share this with some people, and I'll talk to you next video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like these. Also follow my other social media accounts such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for more valuable content. Thank you for watching again, and I will see you guys next time.